Hey friends, welcome back. This is Ashley with Uncommon Roots Homestead, and today I am over at the land, spending some time in the garden and thinking about what we're doing here. Okay, first, this is not a garden tour. I'm going to do a garden tour tomorrow, but look at this. That is an eggplant. I may be irrationally excited about the eggplant that I'm growing because I've never successfully grown eggplant before. And not only is that one growing, but the other plant has eggplant too, and I'm like, I did it. I grew eggplant. So Kevin asked me to check if we had any green onion ready, so I'm gonna do that. I'm growing these bunching onions. They don't look ready. Onions just take a long time. Pretty much every variety of onions takes a long time in my experience, but you can eat them at just about any stage in their growth. That's one thing that's cool about onions, because even if you're growing like a large storage onion, if you want to eat that as a young onion, or sometimes they call them early onions or fresh onions. If you're at the farmer's market and you see, if you see like, sometimes they're called baby onions. I've seen them called green fresh onions. Like, they're basically just young onions that haven't developed all the way. Because the entire plant is edible, it's not a big deal if you let it get fully ripe, unlike, you know, I don't know, some other vegetables like tomato. If a tomato is just started forming the fruit and it's just like that little green, that's not going to be very good. It's going to make it's very astringent in a lot of cases. It's just not delicious. So while I'm over here hanging out next to my planter that I really need to, it not only broke, I had some garlic in it that I harvested and the planter broke. It just really needs to probably move along or be repurposed or something. I have another planter I was thinking about putting here. This is actually the house that used to be on this property was located here where the garden is. That's why, if you remember, that's why I've done all raised beds. Even the in-ground sections are actually raised beds. We just did cardboard and then mulch and then compost in rows, so it might appear like they're in ground, but they're actually not. We didn't till any earth here, mostly because we're not sure what's underneath. We really like the no-till approach in general. It's much better for the soil, and that's something that we really want to preserve on the farm here. But you know, even talking about what we're trying to do with the way that we grow here, I was thinking earlier, what are we doing here, right? Like, what are we doing sharing our journey? What are we doing in this space? You know, I can come here and spend hours every day and still have so much left to do. What are we doing here? And the answer is growing food. We grow food. People farm for different reasons. They farm because they want to make money. They want to do it as their livelihood. They want to work with their hands all day. People farm because they don't trust the system. They don't trust that other people can do it the way that they want it done. People farm because it's generational, and the people before them farmed and their family farmed and it's all they've ever known. People farm because it's all they have access to, a limited education. You know, there are lots of reasons that people choose to farm. So why do we choose it? Why are we choosing to do this? And not only do this, but do this as a balancing act while we also, you know, live our lives in corporate America and raise our family. We do it because we want to grow food. We want to know intimately the work and the sacrifice and the pain that comes with food. And I think that it all starts by being enamored by food, you know, really. And I don't mean in a gluttonous way. I mean really being passionate about what you put in your body and how it not only came to be, but how it left the space that it left. You know, are you sustaining yourself with something that's destroying the earth? Are you focusing on what it takes to get the food from the farm to your table? You know, I think we can be so enamored by this farm to table concept, but are we actually appreciating what that means? And I think what we're trying to do here in building this homestead, in having this large garden, in having a milk cow, in bringing pigs to the farm, we're trying to know intimately our food and raise our food and actually take back our place in the food system, and to be in charge of not only how our food is raised and how it gets to us, but also how it leaves the earth. It's important to take responsibility for what we're doing and for what we're consuming and for how we're living. And, you know, for us, a big piece of that looks like taking responsibility for how we're sustained and what we eat and how we grow our food and the way that we purchase our meat. And if we eat meat, I mean, we're responsible for those things. And so I think that what we're doing here, we're growing food because we want to have a part in that story, and we want to be a part of the change that we want to see. And it doesn't have to look like this for everyone. There's not just one option. There are plenty of ways to do better, to educate yourself, to be better. And for us, this is what that looks like. For you, it might look like just doing a little bit more research when you're sourcing your food. Maybe you stop going to big box stores. Maybe you get to know your local farmers. There's a lot of options, but when we challenge each other to think differently, we're all better. So let's think differently. Also, do you see this jungle? There are few things that bring me the amount of joy that jungle brings me. How many times do you think I'm gonna say that I need to deal with this? Probably a couple more. The amount of weeds. It's ridiculous. Look at this. This area is just gonna be a jungle. I won't be able to walk down here soon. As I was walking through my garden, I was thinking about how many things I'm growing for the first time that I have never successfully grown. Things like eggplants, my tromboncino squash. I've never successfully grown these things before, and it is so exciting to me. And then I think about the things that I'm growing that are not successful. They're just not producing. They're not doing well. And I kind of am like, well, you win some, you lose some. And I'm definitely winning a lot this year. These guys starting to blush. I mean, can you even? I'm probably going to show this dahlia on every video until it is just not blooming anymore. How gorgeous is this? It's stunning. Now, of the dozens of dahlias I planted, that's the only one that's flowering, but it's still something. Hey, little garden cat. Did you come to say hello? Hey, bud. While I'm in here, I was in here looking at my garlic that I've got drying, and look how nice and dry it is. So at this point, I can actually trim all of this up, and this is cured. So I could trim all of it and just store it, and we want to store it in a dark, dry place. This garage is pretty good for that. I'll probably just leave it hanging, to be honest. But if we had the basement, I would trim it all up, put it into a crate, and store it down in the basement. But we don't have that yet, so here it is. And of course, can't come in here without saying hello to these two. Hi, you two. You were outside for a long time earlier. This is rest time. So these barn cats came from another farm where there was an accidental litter. The mom has now been fixed, don't worry. But we decided to take two because Robin, though he's here, he is, he definitely prefers to live with the neighbors for the most part. He comes back sometimes, but not that often. He'll hang out with me in the garden, but for the most part, he spends a lot of his time over there. And having a couple of barn cats here on the farm was important to us, not just to, you know, keep our rodent population down and in check, but also because we love cats and they will serve as pets. Our children love them. We will always give them a place to sleep and a place to eat. And for now, they're actually staying inside. So they're here in this barn / garage that we have with a nice little fan set up, and they'll be in here for the foreseeable future, probably for 3 or 4 months before we even let them roam outside. So their job is to keep this place under control and clean. And we have had some rodents in here in the past, like raccoons and things like that. So their job is to keep this secure. For now, they're obviously in a crate, keeping them safe and secure. Once they get a little bit bigger though, we'll let them roam and have this space. And then eventually we'll let them out as well. And then hopefully we'll also live here at the property at that time too. So that's our plan. I also have this random garlic in here. This is some of my elephant garlic that went a little bit too long. You can see when garlic goes too long, it actually starts splitting apart and setting more little garlic babies, but this is all dry and ready to be dealt with. So for those of you who are wondering, we have named these two little munchkins. This is Basil, this little boy, and Time, the little girl. Hi, bud. You gonna stay in here with the babies tonight? Wanna stay in? I'm gonna go. You gonna stay here? You can stay. You don't wanna stay with the babies? No? Just came for the food. Well, friends, I think that is about my cue to head home. Right after I pick this little guy. Oh, yeah, he's ready. No, he's not quite ready. So when tomatoes are ready, they kind of just fall off. So you can pick any tomato that's blushing and it will ripen. In fact, most tomatoes that aren't blushing, if you put them on your counter, they will ripen. That's how you get tomatoes at the grocery store, right? And it's why their flavor is not quite as great as if you grow it at home, because they were picked so underripe and then they just ripen. It's not the same as when they ripen on the vine. So when they've ripened on the vine and they're ready, you'll just give it a little tug and it'll fall right off. So that one's not falling right off. I'm gonna let it stay, but maybe tomorrow for our garden tour, it'll be ready to harvest. Also, I was saying to Kevin earlier, sometimes it feels like we're so far from the harvest and like all of the work that we put in here. But then I look around and I realize that really soon I'm gonna be having a lot of food to harvest. Look at my little guardian. Robin, are you the garden guardian? I appreciate you, man. Even if you don't stay here. That is another thing that it takes some getting used to, being in the, I think I might have said this yesterday, it's like the country versus the city, I guess. And we're kind of city people. We weren't raised on land or in any like rural setting. And so having like the sounds that are common in a rural setting, it's not common to us. It's very uncommon. So it takes some getting used to. I remember the first time I heard somebody shooting while we were out here and I was like, take cover, we're under attack. That is not the case. It is just someone recreationally enjoying their time. But I didn't know that at the time, and that's not something you hear in the neighborhood. And yeah, it just takes some adjustment and getting used to, but you do adjust. These Brad's Atomic are looking great. So I could totally get wrapped up in showing you everything, even though we just came through and did a garden tour. So I know you have seen these things. I know I have seen these things, but sometimes I can't help myself. Oh, but I want to show you this. Do you guys see that? Do See that? It's right there. That is a dead hornworm covered in wasp larvae. Okay, so what is so cool about that is that we talk a lot about nature and letting nature kind of take care of itself and not doing a lot of damage control in the garden. You know, we don't spray anything. Sometimes we'll do like very minor things like sprinkle diatomaceous earth or spray BT, you know, during certain seasons. But really, I mean, that's minimal. We're talking about like 4, maybe 5, probably less than that, less than 5 proactive things that we do throughout the season in terms of like pest control. But nature, right? So hornworms, tomato hornworms are horrible. They can demolish an entire tomato plant in a matter of seconds. It is miserable. You saw a couple of videos ago that we actually were out here hunting them with a black light to try to find them a couple nights ago. Well, what happens is we can pull those off, but they're really hard to find. Even if you do have a black light, it's not easy. But wasps will actually lay their eggs on the hornworm, and that kills the hornworm. And then those wasps will continue, they'll hatch and they'll grow, and then they'll do the same thing. So it's a great way that nature kind of takes care of itself, and nature controls the population of those hornworms. I think that's so cool. When we do see a hornworm that has all of those larvae laid on its back, we leave it because that's actually going to do more good than harm. So the more you know. Okay, for real this time, I'm headed out. Gotta go eat dinner. I was thinking about going back down and checking on Jeannie, but she looks pretty good from here. She has a little bit of mastitis, but that is a story for another day. So friends, thank you for spending time with me today in the garden. You always have a space here.